Hey guys, and welcome back to Battlefront Updates and some weekly Star Wars gaming news. I almost wish I could make this into a series, but most of the time we don't really have that much Star Wars gaming news to talk about, as you guys know. But today I've actually got quite a few things to talk about. Some new game announcements, some overall positive news for Star Wars games, spanning different franchises and genres. So I figured we'd simply jump straight into it, and I'm gonna compile all the interesting tidbits into this one video instead of trying to split it up into various small videos. So I would love to hear in the comments below which one of these news you find the most interesting and if you like the format of this video. Obviously I'll still stick to my dedicated videos about Star Wars Outlaws or other upcoming games when there's enough to talk about, but when there's smaller news I'd rather make a big video talking about all of it. So let's jump straight into it. I would say the biggest announcement of the week that came kind of out of nowhere is that we are getting a remaster for the original Star Wars game Dark Forces, which actually released 1995, so it's one of the oldest Star Wars games, and I honestly didn't play it myself because, well, I was 1 year old at that time, but it is one of the first, if not the first, Star Wars FPS game, and you get to play as Kyle Katarn before he goes on to become a Jedi in the sequels. The remaster is being made by Night Dive Studios, who recently also made a Quake 2 remaster, which I would say was highly successful and scored very well, which means that it's very promising for this remaster. The remaster is going to be dropped both on PC, PlayStation, Xbox and Nintendo Switch, and just to be clear, this is a remaster, not a remake, so the graphics and gameplay will be pretty much the same. But they are scaling it up to 4K resolution, widescreen support, 60 FPS, and better graphics for the cutscenes. So overall it will still feel like the old game, but it will be a much more smooth experience with the technology we have now. So I'm personally quite excited to give it a go myself, as playing a game from 1995 now is usually quite technically demanding and buggy, plus obviously playing on widescreen 60 FPS is gonna make things way more enjoyable. So expect a full stream of the game once that remaster is out, and please let me know if you guys played Dark Forces either back when it was released or afterwards. What are your thoughts on the game? Moving on, some interesting tidbits about LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Surprisingly, the game is still topping some game sales lists. Now recently in the UK, it was actually all the way on the top of the most sold games for the week, which is quite crazy considering it was 1.5 years since the game was released. And the annoying thing with this is that from fairly reliable sources and insiders, we knew that they were working on big DLC for this game. And I'm not talking about just character packs, because honestly that's kind of boring and doesn't really make you want to come back to the game, but actual DLC with Mandalorian content, planets, maps and all that kind of stuff. But as far as I know, that was then cancelled internally because they needed all the staff on whatever new LEGO game they are working on, which I personally feel is a big missed opportunity. If they were to drop a big DLC for Skywalker Saga for like $20 or something, I would easily buy that because I really enjoyed the actual levels and playing through all of that. I thought that was fantastic. It was a lot of fun to relive the movies in a new modern LEGO game. So imagine experiencing the Mando seasons in LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. I think that would have been absolutely phenomenal. Next up, in regards to Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Patch 6.5 dropped like over a month ago now, which fixed some issues but didn't do as much performance improvements as people hoped for, and they've been very quiet in regards to the next patch, which we still don't have any official date on, but they did last week submit a new patch through the Steam database, and usually it takes about a week or two after they've submitted that for the real patch to drop. So it's not unlikely that we'll get a patch for Star Wars Jedi Survivor next week, which will hopefully get the game into an even better state. Lastly, we have Star Wars Outlaws. Not really any breaking news here, but I wanted to roll some cool images in the background from the visual character guide that they recently sent out. And I did read a very interesting article about the game where they said that they wanted Star Wars Outlaws to be more like Andor, less like Survivor. And at first I was like, what are they talking about? But then I realized that it's more about the fact that Jedi are basically cheat codes in games and otherwise. That's why when you're playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor, you kill, I don't know, thousands of enemies with ease. So they're very fun and rewarding to play as. So the question then is, when we're playing as a normal human being, an outlaw, how are they gonna tackle that? Are they still gonna make us really powerful like many games do and we'll blast through thousands of stormtroopers with ease? Or are they gonna make the combat feel more like every single enemy you take out is actually a big deal? I personally thought when the initial gameplay came out that the blaster combat didn't look very rewarding, but that might just be because I'm expecting you to go in and kind of blast everyone into oblivion instantly. But if they actually build the game to feel rewarding for every kill, I think that's a direction that will be very nice to see, especially as a more down-to-earth scoundrel game that emulates how it is to be in the Star Wars universe. You don't just go around and kill hundreds of people every day, unless you're Chopper, of course. So it's going to be interesting to see how they tackle that. I just think the only thing I'm worried about is if they potentially make the combat too hard and frustrating to use, and those rare kills not very satisfying. They seem to know what they're doing though, and I still think it looks really good, but I am curious what path they're taking with the combat. Anyways, that's all the Star Wars gaming news I had for you today. Hopefully we will have some more stuff to talk about in the fall, but there are not really any imminent Star Wars gaming news that we know are coming soon, but usually it kind of drops out of nowhere. So that's probably going to be the case if something drops. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.